Thank you for joining us for Love in a Big World. Today we are talking with Robin Williams, who is in Florida, and she's going to be sharing about SEL going digital. So Robin, welcome. We've known each other for almost a year now, I think.
Almost, yeah.
Collaborated on a couple projects. We have some mutual friends at Mind Rocket Media Group.
Right.
So it's so good to have you with us today. Tell us more about yourself and the work that you're doing.
Well, I live here in Central Florida, and I'm an educator, and I'm also a board-certified behavior analyst. I've been both for about 21 years now. I work with Florida Diagnostic and Learning Resource Systems as a professional developer for 5 local counties. And in that work, primarily what I do is train teachers how to manage problematic behavior in the classroom, how to teach social skills, how to develop effective interventions in the classroom, and prevent problematic behavior. And then I'm also, in my behavior analysis work, I work as a private consultant with my own company, Simplify Behavior LLC, where I consult with correctional facilities, in homes with families with children on the autism spectrum, and with group homes with individuals with severe and intensive behavior disorders. So I love to think about and talk about how technology can be integrated into all of that, because it's the world that we're living in. So we have to learn how to maximize the use of it.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. I knew about your work with the schools, but I didn't know you had your own private practice as well.
Yes, I do.
I'm excited. I'm going to have even more questions. So as you may know, friends who've joined in, we had a few questions that we're going to start with, but we're just going to make this a conversation. Please feel free to add your own questions as we go along, and we'll take the last 5 minutes or so of our time together to answer your questions. So Robin, tell us more about how gaming can be used to teach social and emotional learning to individuals with disabilities.
Yeah, so when I'm looking at social emotional learning, I like to start with Castle's 5 competencies and kind of compartmentalize it that way, and then think, okay, there's so many apps out there, and there's so many ways that technology can be used, and different apps and different platforms allow people to do different things. I think really in the world of AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality, where people, individuals, students with disabilities who may not have the ability to speak verbally, but they can go into these gaming platforms and collaborate with others that are in the same platform, but maybe in different spaces, and they can communicate through their keyboard and type in what they're saying as they're solving a problem together and using problem-solving skills, collaboration, communication. Students are able to take some apps where you're identifying your emotions, which is one of the competencies, right? Being able to be aware of yourself. Yes. And then project that on creating a character that may be moving through a story or a game. And so I think the biggest aspect and the biggest way that technology allows individuals with disabilities to develop socially emotionally is through virtual collaboration with others that they may not be able to physically be present with and or communicate with in a verbal manner. They can communicate in a variety of different ways.
So to follow up with what you're talking about, let's talk a little bit more. Kids who have autism or kids who have ADHD. I know that from the research that I've done, they particularly respond well to digital applications. Can you explain a little bit more about the science behind the why they do engage when maybe they won't engage person to person?
Some of the science and some of the research that I've read is that it is much more aversive, and because sometimes part of the deficit and part of the disorder of autism is not being able to read those social cues. So when you're person to person with someone and you're talking to them, or you're expected to maintain a certain level of eye contact and or physical interaction, that can be aversive. So that's going to have those types of social behaviors minimized in a face-to-face setting. But in a digital space and through different technological platforms, those barriers are minimized and sometimes even alleviated. So it makes different types of learning and different types of expression of social emotional expression and communication more accessible to kids who are on the spectrum or kids who may have ADHD. I recently became an ambassador for 3D Bear. Are you familiar with 3D Bear?
No, no.
3D Bear is a online platform that is all augmented reality.
No.
So what we're doing right now, we're in the process of talking, and I'm reading some of their research, that the platform was developed by some Finnish researchers and educators. And we're in the process now of actually running some trials. I'm running some trials with some of my private clients who have autism on how we can take that platform and use it to help them develop social, emotional, and communication skills. So for one of the individuals that I'm currently working with privately, he's diagnosed with autism. I thought that was my phone. It's okay. He's diagnosed with autism and Down syndrome, and he has the ability to verbally speak. He currently uses his touch chat to speak, but he's heavily prompt dependent on using that touch chat to speak. However, when I give him problems to solve in this augmented reality space, so, okay, I might say, okay, John, I want you to create what would be your perfect dinner meal, because he can go in, he shines his iPad or my phone or his phone onto like a flat surface, and he can select, okay, let me put a dinner plate in. Let me put yogurts and apples and whatever his favorite foods are. And then him and I begin to have a conversation and talk about healthy choices, why it's healthy, how does that make you feel when you eat healthy food? So we're building social emotional, but we're also building communication through this augmented reality. So we're looking at how we can use that platform more with students with autism, something I'm really excited about. So when that webinar comes out, I'll be sure to share it with you so you can learn more about 3D Bear. It's pretty cool.
Yes, and we can share it with our friends with Living.
Yeah.
So a question, as you're working with the kids, whether it's in AR, VR, or another application, is there a place that or a point in time when you're hoping to see transfer from the gaming environment to the real world environment? And when does that occur? Or is it different for everyone?
It would definitely be different for everyone, and that's all based on learning history and how much time we have to work with that child. But eventually that's the goal, right? We want our kids to generalize all of the behaviors that we're teaching them, whether they be academic skills or social emotional skills, to all of the environments where they exist. If we're teaching something in a therapeutic setting, we want them to do it at home as well, and vice versa. If we're teaching something at school, we want them to do it at the clinic and at home. That same concept applies when we're thinking about AR, VR, or when we're thinking about even talking about self-management, which is one of the things I've been looking at a lot with social emotional learning and technology and in the digital space, not just with students, but also with adults. You know, there's so many apps out here that we can track our behaviors, we can track our healthy eating, we can track our weight, we can track how many times we used our journal, or whatever discrete behaviors are aligned with being healthy and well socially. But then how can we move it out of that digital space into a more tangible space? For some people, that's a good way to start and to build that motivation, but then how can we expand that into the rest of our world? Could we also, while we're tracking in our app, maybe form an accountability group with our friends? So I know that some of my friends and I have accountability groups where we may share in an app, but we also get together and face-to-face discuss that. We could do the same thing with our students. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I love this. And I have so many questions for you. This is so good. So one of the questions is that at what point are you, well, what I heard you say was that you're using the app in, let's say it's in the clinic setting, and then you want the kids to transfer that application or what they're learning, the skills they're learning, home or school. Do you find, or describe how you find the support received for you as a clinician, as well as the support received for the student, being able to access it in all settings? So does the question make sense? Like, are they only using it with you, or are they able to use it at school and at home? And so there is that consistency of experience, which then help them with transfer hopefully sooner, but
Right.
and to make the learning more consistent?
That's a really great question. So, and my answer is kind of twofold, right? So, depending where I am and who I'm teaching, that accessibility depends a lot on money and resources. Some individuals don't have access to the technological tools that I may have in a clinic setting or even in a school setting at their home. Some schools, especially in rural places in Florida, may not have the same 5G network or internet capability as other places. And I've also had a spectrum of support from parents. Some parents, some of my parents of my clients, my private clients with autism, they don't want their children using electronics because they believe that electronics and usage of electronics and technological tools limit verbal communication and social interaction. And so we have to have kind of a learning curve with parents. And one of my big things I always say is technology is a tool. That's what helped to, that's a technology is a tool to help us access things, to help us communicate. It's not meant to replace human interaction, just to help facilitate and enhance it.
Yes.
So that sometimes is where I have to bring parents from in order to even get them open to the idea of, let's try this gaming app, or let's try this augmented reality story that we're going to work on building. And in this story, we're going to talk about emotions. We're going to replay a scenario. And this is going to help your child begin to think about better decision making, which is a part of social emotional learning. This is going to help your child build empathy by thinking about, how can I imagine what it might feel like to be in this situation I'm creating? So it takes sometimes a lot of, it's sometimes a push-pull, especially with parents when it comes to using technology.
Wow. Thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
I know that it's a lot of heavy lifting, but it's so worthwhile for the children and their parents.
Yeah, definitely.
So when we're talking about a gaming environment, I'm wondering what type of rewards are associated in these gaming environments, because that's part of what makes it gaming, right?
Yeah.
So what kinds of do they receive?
The thing that with gaming, especially as it relates to social emotional learning, games that involve acquiring points to win, they don't have what I've seen, and my use of games has been a little more limited than like the AR platforms and some of the self-management tools. But in the ones that I've seen, the games that have students gaining points in order to win the game don't seem to have as much of an effect on building social emotional competencies as games where students have to solve a problem or imagine or live out a story through the game. Mm-hmm. There seems to be more collaboration and more of a win when people have to solve a problem together to get to the end goal, instead of acquiring points. So the focus for me when I'm working with students or clients and we're using gaming in their treatment and their therapy and their instruction for social emotional learning, I'm really focused less on rewarding by points and winning the game, but more so solving a task, solving a problem, or working collaboratively.
That's good. Mm-hmm. I love that. So you mentioned that there is a plethora of apps available. Do you find that is helpful, or are we getting to the point in educational technology where it's splintered and therefore not as effective? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. I think I always like the idea of having options, right? But I'm also the person in the same breath who will tell you, oh my God, there's 300 types of bread for me to buy. I don't know what to buy, right? So I think that the same thing could happen in the app and technology world. Really, if I look at it from a research kind of point of view, the more that is out there, there's more options for people to try, and not everything is going to fit every situation. So many more of our students that we serve, clients that we serve are coming to us with splinter skills, with different types of skills that they already have and different things that they may need, different barriers that we may need to consider to their learning and things that we need to minimize. So I think it's probably good to have a variety. The ones that are effective will remain, as we've seen, because I've seen a lot of things come up and they're around for a year or two and then they fade off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the ones that have remained have taken some of those good things, key features, amazing, innovating technologies and integrated them into their app or into their platform and made them better.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be good to have quite a few. What do you think?
Well, I'm just curious at this point. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about this very thing, and he was saying, you know, there's an app for suicide prevention. There's an app for reproductive health. There's an app for this. There's an app for that, and it's all under the umbrella of social emotional learning. And I said, yes. True, but I'm concerned for the field that we're going to get too niche with our offerings, that then people have that paralysis of, oh, there are too many choices, I don't know what to do. So it's just something that I've been pondering the last few weeks, and how do we who are practitioners in the field, how do we help curate the best of the best in order to help make the choices easier for the adults who are trying to help the kids or for the kids themselves, but give them the best experience possible.
Right. I know that there has not been a lot of research or even curation, like you said, of all these apps. And I think a great place for us who are in the field to begin to start is looking at how we can make sure that these apps align with the 5 competencies, and start putting together either, you know, within the places where we work, the places we serve, our agencies, maybe what some of our preferred ones are, things that we've used a lot, and when we can share with families or even share with other educators and practitioners. If you're looking to teach self-regulation, here's 5 great things. If you're looking to teach responsible decision-making and you want to use technology, here's 5 great things. That's a place that you or I could start like today, you know, and then share that.
That's great. That's great. Well, and please, if you have resources that you'd like to share with our friends who are participating today, and if they weren't able to join us, who at least registered, please email that to me and I will coordinate that for everyone.
You got me thinking that may be a good thing.
Yeah, that would be great. So in addition to 3D Bear, are there other apps that you would recommend to folks?
Yes, well, I think that most people in the educational space know that Calm now has free applications for educators. That's great for self-regulation. I've been in plenty of classrooms lately that teachers are using it, and even teachers are using it home with their own children who are 3 and younger, just to focus on breathing, to focus on taking a quiet time to reflect on how you're feeling, and then not just leaving it there, but then supplementing that with actual lessons that give kids the words and the tools to be able to talk about what they're feeling. I think that sometimes we drop the ball because we think, okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes on this app and then that's it. That's the end of my social emotional learning or my social skills training for the day. And we forget that we have to supplement that with some direct instruction, with some groups, with some circles. There are many different things that we can pull together. So Calm is one I like. One that I use personally for self-regulation, and I've recommended to some high school teachers and teachers of older students, maybe 8th grade, like middle school, is Fabulous Motivate Me. It's a motivation app. And it's very behaviorally focused because it gives you positive feedback after you complete and you log in, and it encourages you, it prompts you regularly. You can track yourself, so it has that data tracking component, which is really cool. I like the music, I like the images. It's really a fun one, and it's one that I like to use for myself. What is another one? Also for educators too, I think that is important. in the classroom, we're dealing so much with problematic behavior, and that's part of the whole social, emotional, social skills thing. But sometimes as educators, we don't know how to find the best interventions or support for the students that we serve. So another online platform that I've been using is called Skills BIP Builder. It is a paid platform. You do have to pay for it, but it is so great because it helps you in a 35-question questionnaire that you can click through, determine the function of problematic behavior, the reason why, the behavior analyst in me loves this, the reason why your child or your student may be engaging in a certain behavior, and then it walks you through the steps of matching your intervention directly to the function. So if we know a student is doing something because it's an attention-seeking behavior, what variables can we manipulate in the environment to provide that attention that they may need? Or what can we teach them to request attention in a more appropriate way? So you develop that intervention plan, and you develop the assessment and the intervention plan in one tool, and then you can just download it in like a Word document, share with parents, share with other people that are working with that child, and it also has a data tracking component as well. So that's one that I've been using a lot lately, and I really like that as well.
That's great. That was kind of leads into our next question. How can behavior management and SEL work together for accountability and data tracking? So you mentioned the Skills BIP Builder. Are there other ways that we can use data tracking and accountability to help students?
Yeah, I think that the self-management apps that are out there, like the Fabulous, any of them that have a visual display that tracks along as you're logging in, helps students feel more accountable. And then our responsibility as the adult in the environment, and some apps you can even share. Like, you know, what is the really popular one that everyone uses? Class Dojo. You know, Class Dojo has the empathy, social skills included within. So that is one that teachers can see, it should do the lesson, and then they can also see and share reinforcement and positive feedback for their students for displaying the skills that they've learned in that empathy lesson. So that is one way. And also there is another one, I think it's called ClassMax. ClassMax and Red Critter, they're kind of similar. And my partner, one of my colleagues and I, Mia Lodato, we talked about these at FETC in January. ClassMax and Red Critter also can be linked to your Google Classroom or your Microsoft, if you're a Microsoft teacher. So you can take the data that those platforms collect on behaviors in the classroom and the lessons that you're teaching and the behaviors that students are displaying that you want to see more of, collaboration, talking with others, sharing, whatever it is, whatever you deem, and it can be shared in your Google Classroom spreadsheets or with your Microsoft EDU.
That's great. So getting into one of our final questions about what does implementation look like on a daily basis, I just want to invite those who are participating, if you have a question for Robin or for me, please go ahead and enter that either into the chat or the Q&A so that we can take the last few minutes of our time together and address those questions. While you're doing that, Robin, if you would tell us a little bit more, what does implementation look like on a daily basis, whether it's in the classroom, in the clinic, or at home?
Yeah, in the classroom, I have found that teachers have to make sure that they give themselves their own prompts and cues and reminders to either check that they have delivered through their social platforms, whether it be an app or like an online platform, that they have delivered the feedback to students that they need on the social emotional skills that they're working on or behaviors that they want to see. They have to remember to do it on a regular basis. So teachers have either set reminders, it's a ding, it's a phone chime, you know, all of the things that technology helps us do in order for those skills to stick. So it has to be on a regular basis throughout the day that you're making sure you're being super intentional about not just let me introduce this skill, but let me make sure I'm trying to notice and giving that feedback so that those skills can generalize, like what you talked about before. In a clinic setting, because clinic settings are so much more It's a very discrete way to learn. There's some incidental learning going on as well in clinic settings, but it's much more structured in a clinic setting. It's much more timed. I do believe the data collection is easier in that way, because you're not with 18 kids, you're with one child or maybe a small group of 5. So I find that data collection is a little bit easier, and there's more accuracy with that in a clinic-based setting. Home, it has always been, whether it's traditional behavioral methods or integrating technology into social emotional learning, working with kids in a home setting, I find that the most consistent implementation comes when the therapist or the analyst or registered behavior technician, whoever, is the person that is actually using the technology. I feel like parents are still struggling, and us as professionals, we have to be mindful of that, and also very explicit in how we teach and support parents as well with using technology. It's still kind of new for a lot of parents, so they're not as comfortable.
Well, and would you say, Robin, that sometimes for parents too, they're dealing with the emotions of having a child who has some special needs, and there's a lot wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
As far as maybe feeling like, I don't know what to do, or what did I do wrong? Was there something that I could have done that could have stopped this from happening? How do I help now in order to get my child on the best path? I mean, there's just a host of emotions. Would you agree that could
Definitely.
way?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of times that leaves parents feeling like, well, I'm not the expert. That's too much for me. I'm doing the best I can just to make sure my kid is alive and fed every day, you know? So one of the things I think where we really do have a responsibility is to begin to empower parents. Maybe you're not the educational professional, but you are the expert and professional for your child. So
Right.
let's work together, and I'll support you. I'll teach you new skills, and I want you to continue to teach me everything you know about your child, so this collaboration can be effective. And keeping in mind all those emotions that come with that diagnosis.
Yeah, there's a lot of grief
Mm-hmm.
associated with a diagnosis. And I love what you're saying, because I think too many times as educators, we can create a great divide between us and the parents. Mm-hmm. And the parents become either fearful or overwhelmed, or, like you say, think that they don't have what it takes to parent, right, even your child. And so recognizing that we're all on the same team, it's Team Kid, we're right there for the child and to help him or her succeed. And we need each other. I mean, the parents need us and we need the parents. And when we're on the same page together, we have the best opportunity for the child's success.
Right, I agree.
So we had someone comment about all the apps, and she was trying to write them down as we were talking and got interrupted. So yes.
I'll tell you.
Yes, Gail, Robin's going to email me and we'll make sure that we send those out to you. Thank you so much. Closing thoughts, Robin.
Closing thoughts are, I'm excited for what's happening in the field of education and technology, and specifically social emotional learning and wellness. I mean, platforms, ideas like this, talking about it with other professionals, sharing what we know, is just, I really think we're still in the very beginning phases of continuing to see major breakthroughs for kids, not just children with disabilities, but all children as it relates to learning. So it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Well, thank you again for the work that you do. Thank
you so much. I'm much obliged.
Yes. And thank you all for tuning in today. We will be in touch with you. If you are new to Love in a Big World, check out our website. I'll send you some resources about us as well. We can help with that explicit instruction piece that Robin talked about, so that not only can kids have an online experience with learning their SEL competencies, but they can have a person-to-person conversation with adults who care about them, both at home and at school. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.